Welcome back to page 121. Today we're going to take a look at fiction in the Traveler universe. Not a ton of it. There's not a bunch of books that are Traveler books, novels. Interestingly, this is the first Traveler novel. It was published in the late 90s to support Mark Millar's Traveler. I'm going to take a look at a bunch of different stuff that's been published over the years. We've got the famous Death of Wisdom from the New Era. The often controversial Force of Destiny. I'll go into a little bit about that. And then the Fifth Foreign Legion series by J. Andrew Keith. And of course, Jefferson Schweikhofer. I'm going to go ahead and touch a little bit on each of these book series. I'm not going to do a review of the book series. I'm just going to talk about their publication history a little bit and why they're significant to Traveler. And then there's other stuff too. There's, of course, Mark Millar's Agent of the Imperium. And there's some good stuff to be found on Drive-Thru-RPG. So I'm going to go ahead and touch on a little bit of that as well. So there is Traveler fiction out there. You just have to kind of search for it a little bit or make do with stuff that isn't specifically written for Traveler, which is Not in Our Stars, is not really in the Traveler universe, or March or Die, but they can easily be plugged in. So today on page 121, fiction in the Traveler universe. Traveler or Traveler-like novels. This one comes from Jefferson Schweikhofer. This was published in about 84, I believe. Got it in an old used paperback store. What is the date on this guy? There we are. 84. September of 84. Not in Our Stars. Now, the idea was that Jefferson Schweikhofer was a Traveler fan and wanted to do some Traveler novels. I don't know why he didn't get approval from GDW, so he used some Traveler flavor and did a series of novels. These are not strictly Traveler universe, but they are definitely Traveler inspired, not unlike Firefly. So Firefly, the TV show, in many ways was Traveler inspired. I'm not going to be doing a review of every one of the books or anything. Today is just an overview to show what's been out there and a little bit of the history of it. So this was the first one. And then, interestingly, we get the Tales of the Concordat. And this was published under the Infinity publication, Infinity Productions Incorporated, which, if everybody remembers, was Gary Gygax's company after TSR. They were looking for any kind of imprint they could make, so they tried a science fiction game, Cyborg Commandos, which was just terrible. And they published some novels, and among those novels were the Concordat series by Jefferson Schweikhofer. So here we are. This is the an interesting thing that it's tied to D&D. They were trying to do any kind of throw whatever they could at the wall, see what would stick. These were some of the offerings. I snapped these up. Oh, got them slightly out of order. I snapped these up when they were out. And I read them, and they're not a bad read. As I said, I'm not going to go into detail on each and every book in this video. It's just to show you what's out there. But if you want some Traveler flavor, these definitely have it. As does this one. The writing's a little clumsy and not exactly my taste, but they're a decent read, and there's good inspiration to be found in these. So now we come to War Sprite, also by Jefferson Schweikhofer, and The Universal Prey. And these are by no means all the books that he did, but these are the real Traveler flavor ones. So definitely worth a read. These are available. I found them on eBay when I was doing research for the video here. I also found Amazon has them. I didn't see them on Amazon Kindle, but I did see that you get them through Amazon, and the prices weren't bad. So that's all I'm going to say about these right now. Next, we're going to go to March or Die by Andrew Keith and William H. Keith Jr. If those names sound familiar, that's because they're some of the original writers for Traveler. These guys grew up in Oak Lawn, Illinois, not too far from where my wife grew up. And they did a lot of Traveler fiction, not Traveler fiction, I'm sorry, Traveler books and Traveler Settings, and then went on to do BattleTech. They were one of the early people in BattleTech. They've written several BattleTech novels. And this was a series called The Fifth Foreign Legion. There were 3 of these. These were published in the early 90s. These are available on Kindle. I think it was all 3 novels on Kindle for like $10. These are a fun read. This is a good mercenary campaign inspiration. In March or Die, you have the 5th Foreign Legion, which is just what it sounds like, the Foreign Legion, as in our Foreign Legion. But they're stranded on a planet because reasons, and they have to march or die. They have to make it from point A to point B to point C to get off planet. This has a nice mercenary flavor to it. There's some decent interaction with non-human aliens. I like these, and the Keith brothers wrote a good book. So these 2 follow that same group, and then the third one here, Cohort of the Damned, is just by Andrew Keith, and it has a little bit different flavor to it. It features more one person than anything else. These feature a singular character as well, the guy who kind of becomes the reluctant leader of the team and everything. This one has just a slightly different flavor to it. The Keith brothers, good writers, very enjoyable stuff. If you have the older Traveler stuff, you've read their stuff. And the novels are definitely fun. Definite Traveler flavor to them. These are not Traveler novels as such, but they have a definite Traveler flavor to them. So that's it for those. Now we go to the Traveler novels. This guy was published in 93. Let me double check that. This guy was published in 95. This was during Traveler the New Era. This is The Death of Wisdom by Paul Brunette, and this follows the exploits of a remnant, someone from the Third Imperium who was in cryostasis, deep sleep, and was revived and came out during the Traveler the New Era in the 1200s. And she's our exposition throughout the film. Throughout the book. So, interesting idea. It's a fun read. Yeah, there's some stuff you need to kind of know about the new era in order to really enjoy the novel. This one's available on DriveThruRPG. Here's book 2 of that guide to Dream of Chaos. This one takes a little different flavor. It's interesting that it just doesn't feel like it's a sequel. The characters change a little bit. Our main bad guy, or kind of a bad guy in this one, changes a little bit. It's just interesting. And then these books have an interesting history on DriveThruRPG. I'm going to go into that in just a second. These first 2 novels were followed up a few years later with the third novel, which was written but never published because GDW ended up closing their doors. And we end up with The Backwards Mask. And this was by the same author, Paul Burnett. And it follows up the story from the first 2 novels. Again, it's interesting. It was written about the same time as the first 2 novels, so it is a little more internally consistent. It's not a bad read. And then we have another little part of this story. And then in 2011, we got another sequel to these first 2 novels called The Backwards Mask. And the explanation in here is that the third book was to be published before GDW closed its doors, but then when they did close their doors, the series was never finished. And for years, gamers wondered how the storyline resolved itself. In 2005, traveler designer Mark Miller approached Matt Carson and asked him to dramatically imagine how the story ended. This is his vision. So you actually have 2 novels that start out, and then you have 2 different endings to the same story. Again, I'm not going to go into a ton of detail on it. I just thought this was really neat. These are all available on DriveThruRPG. I believe they're through Mark Miller's FFE as well, Far Future Enterprises. Just kind of neat that you have a couple of different ways to end this story arc. And neither one is bad. So again, I'm not going to go into details on the individual books. This is just a, hey, what's out there kind of video. So now we're going to go away from the official Traveler of the New Era novels, and we're going to go to the first Traveler novel, so-called, Gateway to the Stars by Pierce Askegren. And this guy was published in 1998, and this was during the Mark Miller The New Era. Interesting that it's calling itself the first Traveler novel, because of course it isn't. The first Traveler novel was the Death of Wisdom for Traveler the New Era. The first one to sit officially in the Traveler universe. As you see, I got this at the old Crown Books. They've been out of business for a long, long time. This too is an interesting story. This one almost felt as if the author had maybe done a different story, had it set up as a different thing entirely, and then just kind of adapted it to Traveler. I was not. It's okay. It's still good Traveler reading, and it's good Traveler inspiration, and it takes place during Milieu Zero, and you also get an all-new Traveler module by Mark Miller. So, again, what's not to love? I bought this guy in 98 from Crown Books when it was brand new. You can still find some copies out there, and this guy also is available on Amazon. The next one to come up is Force of Destiny, and this is technically a bootleg copy by Cargonaut Press. The story, I had to look up online for this. I've known it for a few years, but this was published in 03. This was a proposed novel for Traveler in the early days. For whatever reason, GDW did not pick it up, and it sat in a drawer for a while, and Dale Kemper, the author, would occasionally sell a manuscript of it here and there. Well, Cargonaut Press approached him and said, hey, we'll publish this for you. And the author said, okay, but in payment, I want a couple of 100 copies of the novel. And they said, sure. The book got published, and the copies that were going to the author got, quote, lost in the mail. I have no idea the truth of any of this. This is simply what's online. I do know that these then became considered bootlegs because the author was not properly paid for it. I've had this since 02 or 03, whenever it was published. And it's not a bad book. I actually like it. It's got a nice Traveler flavor to it. This was published in 01. So yeah, I got this in 01 then. I bought this right when it came out. This too, you see the artwork is from 85. This too is available on Amazon. You can buy copies of this online. I'm sure they're very expensive, but it's not a bad little read. And there we go. Huh, look at that, even a little postcard. That's kind of cool. I didn't realize that was in there. So, not a bad little book. You can get a copy of it through Amazon on Kindle, and it's worth a read. It definitely is worth a read. And then we go to one more book. The last novel I want to discuss is the most recent, Agent of the Imperium by Mark Miller. I enjoyed this book. It's a nice look at the history of the Imperium. This book covers a couple of 100 years in the early go of the Imperium. And I've done a profile on this book before, so I'm not going to reiterate it there. But I do recommend this. This has some nice Traveler flavor to it. Great Traveler history. Mark Miller, of course, the creator of Traveler. It was nice to see his take on his universe. So I do recommend it. Also on DriveThruRPG, if you just type in Traveler fiction, there are some short stories that are on DriveThruRPG that are set in the Traveler universe. The Fate of the Cannoneer is one of them. That the Cannoneer is an early Traveler module, and this tells us the fate of that missing vessel. So there is a fair amount of Traveler stuff out there. Of course, there's always Larry Niven, some of the earliest guys, the Cosmic Computer. I can't think of the author's name. Is a lot out there. The Honor Harrington series leaps to mind as well. C.J. Shara had a lot of stuff that felt like Traveler, but was not necessarily influenced by Traveler. Interestingly, the Honor Harrington universe was influenced by the game Starfire, which is a game that was out in the 80s and 90s that the author David Weber was involved with, and then he novelized a lot of that. So there is a lot of Traveler stuff out there. Dune, of course, by Frank Herbert, another quintessential Traveler influence. I recommend a lot of that kind of stuff. A lot of the original Star Trek has some nice Traveler flavor to it. So there's a lot of inspiration for old Traveler out there if you want it. And of course, there's the newer Star Trek stuff. There's Star Wars. There's The Expanse. Firefly, as I've already mentioned. Space Above and Beyond from the 90s. Those are all movie or TV things that you could watch to enhance your traveler experience. But these are just some of the novels I've collected over the years that have to do with Traveler. I hope you like this look at them. I hope some of this was informational to you, maybe some books you didn't know about before. And with a little bit of searching online, you'll be able to find them pretty easily. So that's all I've got to say today for page 121. Thanks for watching. I hope this was interesting to you. If it was, please leave some comments, like and subscribe, tell your friends. And I'm always interested in new ideas of things I should cover, any polite criticisms, etc. So that's it for today for page 121. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.